Hey everyone, welcome to the moon forecast. This is for the new moon we have coming up here in Scorpio. I'm Kendall with the Bohemian Tarot Girl.
And I'm Amy with Wild Reawakening. And oh boy, we are here with another new moon. And this one has a lot of intensity around it. We're going to get into all of the details, but this Scorpio is already very intense and intuitive and deeply mysterious sign. And it has so many different aspects that are going on right now with other planets and this is one that's going to be affecting everybody on a global level. And so we're going to get into kind of all the details of everything that is happening with this new moon. But it is happening November 1st of 2024 at 5:46 a.m. Pacific, and it will be at 9 degrees of Scorpio. The sun and the moon, when we have a new moon, are in the same exact position in the sky. So if you want to see which part of your chart is being activated by this, go ahead and look at your chart, find where 9 degrees Scorpio is, and then you'll be able to see which house this is in. And then you can determine the kind of the themes that are going on uh, for you personally. But there's so much happening here.
There really is. I feel like it's all about this kind of real deep inner truth that's going to come out and the change that it's really going to bring about. So I like it. I like that there is the aspect of being able to see and truly have that opening to really manifest what you want in it. Um, do you want to start off? Should we start off with the sun, moon, with Mars opposite Pluto? Are you good with that one?
Yeah, because that's
I
a
feel
big
like
one.
that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, because Scorpio has actually two rulers, two planet rulers. And the two rulers of Scorpio, traditionally it was Mars, but then it became in the newer kind of era Pluto. And there are very significant themes with both of those. And so to have both of those really intense planetary energies, I mean, Mars is, the god of war and the god of action. And so we're looking at all the themes of that. It's like forward movement and um, kind of there's like a volatility towards it. And then we look at Pluto, and Pluto is all about, you know, power and transformation and your personal power and where you get your power, but it is also a global thing. And Pluto's been in this weird, just moved. Um, Pluto has been retrograde and it's been retrograding back into Capricorn, which is where it's been for the last several 14 years.
Mhm.
And this is its last position there. We're at 29 degrees of Pluto, which is at the very tail end because 30 is the end. And we've kind of been going back and forth this year between Pluto and Capricorn and Pluto and Aquarius. And you've kind of seen this power struggle between, the traditional Capricorn um, values of stability and work and kind of like that intent. I always think, if you've been watching us, Capricorn to me is always that like strict father figure that comes in and says, do it this way. And this is the way things have been done. And this is the way we've always done them. And this is the right way to do things. And then you have Aquarius, which is such an opposite energy of being innovative and future forward and the benefit of all of humanity and not just your own personal benefit. And so we're seeing this kind of change of the guard with Pluto that is happening. And it's making for a lot of intensity because, as we're seeing out on a global scale, there are a lot of people who prefer to keep things the way they've always been and what they're used to and what they know works. And then there are a lot of people who are realizing maybe the old ways don't work and maybe there's a better way to do things. And maybe we can look at things in a more, um, what is the future forward direction and how can we make things better? But in order to do that, you have to leave behind all of the old. And so we're having this big power struggle happening that is going between these two very different energies. And all of that to say that Pluto is such a major player with this moon because this moon is um, Well, because Mars, which is one ruler, has been in Cancer for,
Mhm.
and it will be in Cancer until May because it's going to retrograde.
It is at the end
Um,
of its degree, though. So,
yeah.
it's interesting that both of these players are really at their end points.
They're
Uh,
both at 29 degrees right
yep.
now. And so they are opposing each other because we have that Pluto and Capricorn, and they are at opposite ends of the zodiac. And they, Mars and Cancer is very different from Pluto and Capricorn. And we're seeing this kind of like power struggles happening. And it can be very volatile and it can be very, a lot of emotions brought up
Yep.
because that Mars is in Cancer and Cancer is a water sign. So we can see a lot of really heightened emotions, a lot of volatile energy, a lot of like potential outbursts and power struggles. And it's just something to be aware of. And it's very interesting, of course, not to get into politics because we're an astrology channel, but that this is all happening at the time of a major election.
Yep.
And so all of these energies are going to be at play during that time. But
Yeah.
there's more to this Mars opposing.
Yeah. I mean, there is, and I really feel like if you look at it from a personal, kind of viewpoint, it's going to be really digging up and realigning core wounds in your
Mhm.
life. And I really feel like there are going to be a lot of things, and things have probably already been shifting in your life. If you step back, start paying attention, if you've been watching this and you're really into the cycles and really watching that, think about the core wounds that you've carried for, these past years. And really think about now, are you on that shift to heal them? Are you on that kind of vibration to really clear those out of your life and proceed forward and establish new kind of better patterns in your life? And I think that's really what is key about this new moon is really looking at where you want to go with those healing aspects in your life, right? Those really core pieces that have held us back so much. I think this is your opportunity to take a step back, look at them for this one last time, and really set a plan in motion to make sure that you're moving forward as Pluto shifts into Aquarius with the energy of, what you want to bring in your life now and how you want to live it. So,
Absolutely. I mean, because we do have these energies and they do affect things globally, but really you're the main character in your story. And it all depends on what you're going to do with the energy that surrounds you and whether you're going to fall into like the mass energy that's happening and become a part of it and elevate and escalate things, or are you going to step back and go inward and look at how it's actually affecting you on a personal level and what you can do on it internally or do with it internally? Mine's getting ahead of me again. Um, and how you can use it as a catalyst to really propel you forward in a positive way instead of getting kind of caught in the swirl of uh, chaos that may feel like is happening at the moment. Energies are all temporary. They come in cycles. That's why we look at these things. So recognizing what they are and how you can utilize them is actually the best thing that you can do. And if something feels chaotic, you don't have to join it. You can step back, kind of like go inward, which is a very Scorpio aspect. And I would actually highly emphasize that it is perfectly okay to turn off your TV, not listen to the news. I know it's going to be hard this week. um, and kind of go into a little bit of a hermit mode for a little bit and just pay attention to what's happening around you in your most immediate environment. Because there are people who are going to be less aware of energy and less aware of global patterns and cycles and how they attribute to the energy who may start spiraling. And it's not going to do you any good to participate in
yep.
that spiral.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, anger, right, is being really brought up during this time. And I think if you are not aware of it, you can easily be brought into anger. And it's interesting that 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 kind of theme of anger and being able to see it in your life and like be able to step back and kind of um, analyze why you're angry and move forward is a theme that's going to happen during this new moon. But then it also happens again when Mars goes into retrograde in early January. And it's interesting that we have kind of these two key political, if you're in the US, players, events happening right in those time spans where anger can really be brought up for a lot of people. And so just making sure that, if anger comes into play in your life, or if you're seeing people experience severe anger, kind of separate yourself and, make sure that you're not being drawn into it. If there's a lesson for you to learn during that time, go ahead and, work through that and, see how it's truly affecting you in your life.
mhm. And on a personal level, I mean, anger comes up when you feel like you're not being, I mean, it comes up for various reasons, but a lot of times on a personal level, it has to do with when you don't feel like you are being treated in a way that you should be treated.
Yep.
And so keep in mind that some themes of that, especially if there have been patterns in your life where you maybe haven't held maintained certain boundaries, or where you feel like you've been taken advantage of, or someone has not treated you well, wherever the injustices are, those could kind of come up as themes during this time as well. So it's a really good time to practice like grounding, stepping away, realizing that, and I always say this, everyone's processing life through their own lens. And everyone thinks that their own lens is the correct lens.
Mhm.
But there's so many different perspectives and levels of understanding about certain things and where people are coming from. And we're really not that different from each other. Um, we just have different ways of viewing what is important and what we value and where we're coming from. And so, not letting people get under your skin, and also recognizing where you need to do your own healing and maybe widen your lens a bit to allow other perspectives is going to be super important. So,
I agree. I mean, it is important to realize that anger is almost, it's not really an emotion. It's like the expression of other emotions that you're having inside of yourself. And so being able to pick out what is actually, kind of the key piece that is creating the anger within you that's coming out and you're showing it to the world is a really important part of neutralizing it and being able to make changes in your life. So pay attention to that. Like, pay attention to the fact that, if you're feeling this anger, where is it actually stemming from? And really making that change in your life to either understand it better or to figure out a way to neutralize it so you're not experiencing and being triggered and having those, kind of angry pieces come into your life because we don't need that, right? Like
yeah.
that's
And of
un
course, these planets also have other planets that are interacting with them. And so they're creating some pretty unique, oh my gosh, what do you call them? Like, I want to say graphics, but they're not graphics. They're creating some pretty unique aspects and like,
yes.
and so we also have coming in, which is also at 29 degrees, we have Neptune and Pisces. Pisces, of course, is ruled by Neptune. So it's been in its home sign, but Neptune is about illusion, and there is, or there can be illusion. It's not just about illusion, but it's also very spiritual and very intuitive. And so it's kind of like bringing in that element as well. And because that's in Pisces, that is trine Mars, and it is sextiling Capricorn. And then we also have Mercury in Scorpio at 28 degrees. So it's also at that last endpoint.
There's a lot of
And
endpoint ones right now.
yes, and there's a lot of water signs as well. There's 6 planets in water right now. Water rules emotions, So this can be like a very, a very, a very emotional, but also intuitive moon. So, um, but anyway, with Mercury being at 28 degrees Scorpio, we now have a trine that is happening between Mercury, Neptune, and Mars, all being in water signs. It's creating a grand water trine, which is a very actually good placement. But then we throw that Capricorn in the mix that is kind of creating that opposition. It creates what we call a kite. And that is a very significant kind of positioning. Um, it means that the energy is all flowing and connecting to each other in a way, but it also creates more of an intensity that is happening around all of those planets together. And especially with being at the end point, because an end point in the zodiac, in a sign is like there's like a culmination or an ending or something that is coming to completion. And so you're going to see a lot of things begin to shift after those planets move out of those signs. So lots of change.
Lots of change. And it's interesting, like we're looking at all these, 29 degrees. And another one that's popping up is the Mars Pluto, and they're creating a T square with Juno, and Juno's at 29 degrees of Libra. So, and this one to me is all about those relationship dynamics that are going to come up. And so it's going to ask us to really release those old dynamics that we're carrying with us, and really get deeper in alignment with how we want our relationships. So it's interesting. There's all these kind of key players, and they're like coming out right here at the end. And it just wants you to finish up some things, and it wants you to finish up these realignments in some of these key places. And I do really think that, core wounds, and making shifts as far as like how you want to experience your life, and then also how our relationships come into play in our lives, and making sure that we've gotten rid of all of those past negative pieces that we don't want to carry through with us, because we're going to come into this new world and there's going to be new values that we need to face. And I think that's the key, is that we need to get ourselves to this moment where we can really adjust ourselves, because our world is going to shift and it's going to be different, and we're going to experience it and need to have some better values in our life in order to be able to kind of walk through it. So,
Yeah. And just something to keep in mind, especially with Neptune being kind of thrown in the mix of this, and all of these being at end degree points, is that things are shifting. And even if we can't see them at this moment, there's a lot that's happening kind of behind the scenes on a more kind of energetic level, because it's like when you plant a seed, you don't necessarily see it for a while. You just have to kind of like trust that it's there and that it is actually doing something in the earth that is going to produce something that you really want and value and need, or is beautiful. But right now all you see is this like pile of mud, and you're like, what the heck is happening here? Like there's I don't know if it's going to become anything, and I don't know what it's going to look like, and I don't know um if it's worthwhile, or if I should just, go back to what I know. There is something that is being produced and is coming to fruition below the surface at this time. And again, that's a very Scorpio thing, because Scorpio energy has a lot to do with the hidden and the mysterious and what is not seen. And I always, Scorpio, every time Scorpio comes around, it's very much I lean into kind of the archetype of the dark goddess, which has to do with, we think about like the story of Persephone, and we think about like Kali, and we think about, there's all of the different archetypes that embody kind of that element of the feminine. Um, and it's very much kind of a process of surrender and going within and allowing things to be created in the dark so that they can be birthed later in a better, brighter light. Um, so it is we are looking at how do we surrender into this, and how do we go in and have our own inner reflection and be discerning about what is happening and leaning in and relying on our intuition and making sure that we're utilizing and even activating our gifts um, and maintaining through all of that because when there's a lot of chaos happening around you or there's just a lot of outside external energy, what do you do when you go in and then you be sure that you are maintaining your own ideas, your own beliefs, and your own sovereignty, and really hanging on to that and creating this level of strength around yourself and who you are and what you came here to do and be, and kind of like remove a lot of the outside at that level at this time. It's such a period of deep reflection. And you'll find that the more you're able to do that, the more insight you're going to have, the more peace you're going to have, the more answers you're going to have. Like it's just really, you can really harness this energy to your own benefit, but it takes removing yourself from the external at the
Hmm.
moment.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we do have some additional supportive energy too that I feel like really drives home. Like we have the sun moon trine, Saturn and Pisces, and we're going to have that energy that's going to bring in some grounding to help with that transformation, which I
Yes.
love because I think, looking at this new moon, I actually feel like it's going to do some good work. I'm not sure if how we're going to experience this good work, but I do feel like there is some other, kind of key aspects here that are really going to help with the energy and making sure that we feel a little bit more comforted if we are aware of what's going on, right? And so just know that these changes, especially with this Saturn coming into play here, it's really intentional. There's something intentional happening during this time. It is for our best, you know, way of life for, really transforming into a better world. So no, just if there are some growing pains, if it's a little bit stressful for you, just kind of go out and get connected and really making sure that you're grounding into the world and you're connecting there, especially when your emotions flare up. So,
Having Saturn trining this is actually such a benefit, which is funny to say because usually Saturn comes in and causes grief, I think, because
trouble,
it's
yeah.
the strict, you know, rule master. It rules Capricorn. So it's usually all about like how do we do things by the book and this is the laws of the universe and this is, the order of things. But having that kind of come in and trining the sun and the moon combination brings a sense of some stability and the ability to kind of temper some of these emotions a bit, a little bit more of like an emotional maturity into the mix, which could be very much needed with all the
Yes.
heightened emotional intensity that could be going on. So there are definitely like energy is energy. It's not positive or negative. It's just how you view it and how you utilize it. And so there while some people can react to energy, there are some people who actually look at it and utilize it and work and align with it. And so the more you can kind of do the latter,
Yes.
I think that's just the biggest thing with us is don't react to what is happening around you. Like really kind of step back and things will neutralize at some point. And probably by the time we have our full moon,
Yep.
that's in 2 weeks. We'll have that full moon in Taurus, which is a lot more grounding energy. And a lot of these planets will have kind of like, well, not a lot of them, but some of them will have shifted out of certain signs and it'll create a whole different energy around it. Some of these are longer term planets, and so it may take more time, and we may be, dealing with some of that for a little bit longer, but it will all eventually move on from where we are now.
Yep. I agree. And we have, this Venus Sag energy, opposing Jupiter and Gemini, which kind of bring in a little more of a fun too. So it kind of reminds us like have fun with this. If you're working on relationships, if you're working on your core wounds, make sure to bring in that piece to it and really um, don't dwell in that kind of negative aspect. Really enjoy and be playful with the world that you're in right now. And it's going to kind of lighten the mood. It's going to bring you up, your vibe up, and help you make that change. So, yeah. Anything else, Amy, you want to talk about?
So I think we've covered the main big parts of this. So
I feel like we have.
yeah.
All right, everyone. Have a great new moon. We will see you next time for the full moon and that big shift into Aquarius with Pluto. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more next time. See you all next time. Bye.